Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about The Institute by Stephen King. So, as usual, we're going to talk non-spoilery thoughts and opinions up front and then move over to spoilers where we can talk in more detail. So, as usual, remember to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and let's begin. So, The Institute is one of Stephen King's more recent books, and this to me feels very much like Stephen King wanted to take a crack at the teenage kind of superhero-y kind of genre. Kind of like how there's a lot of, at least recently, in recent years, there's been a lot of sci-fi type fantasy that lean towards superhero type things. So, this to me felt like Stephen King wanted to take that concept and play around with it because it's been so pervasive. But sadly, and ironically, he didn't seem to put that much effort into it. When he has so much experience with these sorts of characters and these sorts of situations, it's so weird to me that this feels so half-assed. So let's give a brief description as to what the story is about. So the story in and of itself is weird in the way it's told because it starts off talking about a older character named Tim who just lost his job and stuff, and he's basically traveling he's going from state to state, and he ends up in South Carolina, and we just spend a good amount of time with this character that has almost nothing to do with the rest of the story. He's a bookend character, really, and it just felt really weird to the point where you're kind of questioning what you're reading at first. By the time we actually get to the actual story, we find out what the whole deal actually is. So, while pretty much during the time when Tim is traveling and going to South Carolina and stuff, at that same time, a 12-year-old boy who's a super genius, he is kidnapped in the middle of the night, and his parents are murdered at the same time, and he has no idea what's going on. He wakes up in an identical version of his bedroom, but in a completely different location. He only notices something that's weird when he realizes that his window is not on the wall. So then he realizes he's not in his room, and he kind of freaks out and all this stuff. So what's going on is the secret kind of government entity, kind of not government entity. The secret organization is kidnapping children who have telekinesis or telepathy. If they already have the ability, then they'll be immediately kidnapped and taken to the Institute. But if they also have the potential for that ability to manifest, they also take those kids too and experiment on them in order to try to awaken their abilities. So now we have this kid, Luke, who is trapped in the Institute with a bunch of other kids who also have either telekinesis or telepathy, and he makes friends with a few of them, and they pretty much try to get a hold of what's going on and, like, more or less try to figure out how to get out, because that's the ultimate plan. Luke is trying to get out. And that's the basic premise. So I find this book very ironic because Stephen King is kind of known for great character development. Even his most minute characters are really interesting and you kind of fall in love with them and stuff. Like, he's really, really good with character. And he can do it in almost any length-size book. Like in The Boogeyman, the book I also reviewed some time ago. That's a very, very short story, but you like immediately get to learn the character and you feel so connected to the main character and everything. But somehow in this story, like, he just doesn't do that at all. Like, all these characters feel very thin. Their motivations feel just non-existent almost. It's weird. It's like our main character, the only thing I really know about this kid is that he's supposed to be a genius. That he is literally like MIT at 12 kind of smart. Like MacArthur Genius Grant smart. But we keep getting told that he's smart, but he keeps making really stupid decisions. Like, it's really weird. Like, he makes a lot of really bad decisions, but like, you could kind of chalk it up to him being like 12 or something. Like, you say, okay, he's a kid, he's naive and stuff and blah, blah, blah. But like, no, if you're supposed to be that smart, then I need you to do some next level smart stuff. Don't make it a point to tell me that he is a 12-year-old genius and then not have him do incredibly genius things. So that kind of bugged me. Like, so something about the way King did his characterization in this book is just so off and just not up to the standard that I put him on. Like, he has fallen short of the King greatness that I always have him on with this story, at least. And it kind of follows that way throughout the rest of the story. Like, we don't learn too much about the Institute. We don't really learn like how it formed or anything like that. We just kind of go through it, and ultimately the story just becomes a jailbreak story, and it just kind of plays out very straightforward. There's no real there's nothing deeper. It feels very surface level, and it's just a huge disappointment because I was looking forward to the story because I thought it was a really interesting thing that King was doing, and it bugged the crap out of me. When I first read this, I ranted and raved everywhere. This was like last year or something, and it just I was so heated about it, like I was ranting and raving all over the internet. But coming back to it, I don't hate it as much as I did, but I still think it's like severely disappointing, especially when I've come to expect so much more from Stephen King. This book actually disappointed me so much I can't even recommend it. Like it feels like a huge missed opportunity out of laziness, not even out of a lack of skill or anything, because I know King could have made these connections and done it beautifully, but it just felt like he just kind of got over the story almost as he was writing it and just was like, okay, we're done with it or whatever, because it just kind of culminates in an almost lazy way, even though King is almost infamous for his weird, lackluster endings sometimes and stuff, but like, I don't know, there's just so much left to be desired. I feel like there was so much left on the cutting room floor with this story. It could have been so much more. So I'm going to go ahead and leave off the non-spoilery part because I need to spoil some stuff in order to really talk about what really bugged me. So let me know any other Stephen King stories that like didn't live up to the hype for you. What are some Stephen King books or movies that you were told is just, this is amazing, you got to see this, it's the junk, you got to see that, and it just fell so flat for you. Let me know about those in the comments down below. So let's jump over to spoilers. So spoilers for The Institute by Stephen King. So when we find out everything that we find out about what the Institute is doing with the kids and stuff, I kind of got excited because I thought we were going to get into some King connections and stuff. Already with the idea of these kids having telekinesis or telepathy, that's already low-level shining ability, basically. That's very basic shining ability. Or touch, whichever term you want to use. And the Institute is in Maine, so of course it's in Maine, so I assumed, and we got a shout out to Salem's Lot, Jerusalem's Lot, so I kind of took it as these were like little mild hints that we were going to get, some crossover stuff, but it just never happened. So the ultimate thing that the Institute was doing is they're developing these kids' psychic abilities so that they can use them in order to prevent like disastrous things from happening. They were using the few precogs that they have to predict the future so that they can use the telekinetics and the telepaths to combine their powers together so they have much greater range and more influence in order to kill people or influence their decisions and stuff in order to change the direction of something terrible that was possibly going to happen. Like in their own records, and they haven't been doing this for very long, in their own records, they prevented like multiple nuclear holocausts. And so they kind of leave you at the end with this thought of, oh, did they do a good thing? Did they do a bad thing? Like, even though they were technically doing a good thing by preventing all this terrible stuff, kidnapping kids and killing parents is like horrible. So it's like, there's a lot of that around there. So King at least leaves you with this question. But the thing that annoyed me, right? So this idea of them combining their powers, they all have this low-level shining ability, and there's this Institute place, right? So the thing that I'm talking about with like just leaving stuff on the cutting room floor, just leaving stuff, low-hanging fruit kind of stuff. So this Institute place could have been either like, because King has multiple different companies and government entities in his universes that all coincide with these abilities and stuff, right? So I don't understand why the Institute couldn't have been either a like subsidiary of the shop from Firestarter or like a defunct Arrowhead project grouping of people from the Mist or something like that, and have like because the big benefactor, we don't even know who the person is. He's just a mysterious guy with a lisp. He's like the big top person at the Institute's boss. And like when he shows up and tell them all the stuff that they were actually doing, we're like, okay. But in my head, I'm like, okay, we don't know who it is. But I just in my own head canon said that this is the Man in Black. Because how awesome would it have been if the ultimate benefactor was like the Man in Black or something, and like he's over the shop and he was over the Arrowhead project because he's trying to get people to mess with Toadash Base and like crack stuff open in order to weaken the beams in order to take down the Dark Tower and stuff like that. So like there's just so much stuff he could have done with it. And the entire thing that really bugs me is that this book could have been the perfect marriage of Firestarter and the Mist plus like Stand By Me. So with like Stand By Me, you got the group of young kids. You could have had that great friendship angle, or almost like It with the Losers Club or something. You could have had that in there, right? And then the shop is the government entity that was the big antagonist, and well, not really big antagonist, but they were in Firestarter, the like big company situation. So the shop could have been, you know, either a part of the institute could have been part of the shop, or like a, you know, a runoff, you know, a subsidiary kind of thing. Or like after everything that happened in the Mist happened, like the Arrowhead project got defunct and all those people had to do something else, so they got rolled over into the Institute project or something like that. Or maybe their funding came from the same place, and then because of what happened with the Mist, like they lost their budget, and that would explain why all the security in the Institute is so crappy. Like there's so many different things he could have done. There's so like, and it's not like he would have had to stretch anything because he already has all the infrastructure. Like there's so much infrastructure already built into the multiverse that Stephen King has, that this could have been a perfect little connection into it and just spun off into a million other things. And it just feels like he saw that and then just like, nah. And then just like left it all plain and boring. I'm like, what? And with these thin characters, and they're just misusing these awesome powers. Like, I mean, they kind of used them well at the end when they combined their powers together, very Captain Planet. Like, they combined their powers together, and, like, took out all the people, and like was using their powers to basically destroy the Institute, and that was pretty decent. But it's just. And based on some more of King's infrastructure, he could have also done something along the lines of, in Doctor Sleep, so mild spoiler for Doctor Sleep, but it is said that the steam, the kids with psychic abilities are lessening. So it's speculated like it could be, you know, the internet or cell phones. Like they don't know what it is. Like there's just less people out there with that abilities, or with those abilities in general. So like this could be an explanation for how those people come back into the world. Like these are ways to like basically trigger these abilities because they're not totally gone, but they're dormant more now and stuff. So there's just so much infrastructure he could have used to expand this whole thing and like seed it for sequels and all kinds of stuff. But that's when I get back to the idea of, it feels like he got to a certain point and got bored and just threw it aside. Like that's where I feel about it, because it's so disappointing, because it could have been so much more. So I guess I'm going to go ahead and end this review here. It feels very negative. I mean, I didn't really enjoy the book, but like all the stuff that was really good about the book is very like bargain basement, bottom of the barrel kind of stuff for King. Like it's everything else that was good about it is like window dressing to the stuff that's always good. It's the stuff that like it's so weird. It's just, I don't know, because it's, for anyone else, I would call this kind of a medium book, very kind of average, run of the mill. But for what it could have been from King, it's way more disappointing. It's like the disappointment is magnified. So sad to say, this is my least favorite King book, I think, in general. And it is like, ugh, I can't wait to get back into more awesome King. So next King book is probably going to be something more directly dealing with the multiverse. So stay tuned for that. So make sure you hit the like button on this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And I will talk to you all next time. Peace.